And we are recording with Ms. Clare Lopez dressed up because she is running for president now. She told me not to tell you guys, but that's what we're doing. It's Ms. Lopez, please introduce yourself for all the new listeners.
Oh, thank you. Well, Clare Lopez, Lopez Liberty LLC, not running for president, dressed up for the recording of some other material that we're getting ready for John Guandolo at Understanding the Threat, standing up a national security academy with a number of courses and lessons to be offered online to students. So been recording for that.
Beautiful. And I don't know why you keep coming back on here as I clearly throw you under the bus. You start recording and instantly just kick you into the street. You're running for president. You're like, what the hell? What Tommy? Why? But yeah, no, it's so I kind of want to get right into it. And it's, I with all the respect I can and should as a human give it, you also can't help but see the irony. Let's just get into it with David Ames being knifed in a jihadi attack as a country that dissolved their borders and allowed influx of migrants. I mean, you reap what you sow. I mean, that's someone's dad, that's someone's son. So I'm not trying to smirk at it, but for everyone listening, it's is it British, the parliament member or?
Yeah, David Ames was a member of parliament, probably, I think, the very longest serving member of the British Parliament since I think it was 83 or 4. He's been a member of parliament, and he would regularly hold meetings with his constituents on a regular every 2-week basis. Now, the thing with that was, though, that he would post the time and the place of the meetings online at his parliament website. And that kind of made it easy for anyone who wanted to come after him. Plus the fact that members of parliament really have no particular security. There's no regular security assigned to them. Now, they're rethinking that after this murder. But up until then, no, they had not had any security with them. They felt safe. They were with their constituents. Well, I mean, just as you say, Tommy, their constituents now include, people like Ali Harbi Ali is his name, the 25-year-old Somali jihadi who knifed him to death in a church, which is where the meeting was being held. But I'll tell you a quick story if I can.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I was at a meeting. I think it was a dinner meeting even with. I think at that time it was a former member of parliament, and I don't even remember exactly who it was. But the point was the subject of the conversation, and that member was telling us that as far back as the 1970s or so, the leadership in Britain, meaning the elites, the academics, the church, meaning the Anglican Church, the politicians, whatever, they basically got together and they agreed among themselves that Britain was too white, too Anglo, too Saxon, and that needed to change. They literally decided to dilute their own population. And what they did then was opened up immigration from all their former colonies, which of course stretch around the world. And from that point onwards, the flood has been coming in, and probably with as little or less than the kind of vetting that we've got here in the United States. I mean, nobody ever asks, right? Consular, visa interviews or CBP, Customs and Border Protection at the port of entry. Nobody ever asks these people, do you here and now pledge to support the Judeo-Christian based Constitution of the United States of America? And do you here and now abjure any loyalty to any other former legal systems, to include Sharia? That question alone would help to divide, whom should receive a visa and who you might want to question some more.
Is it Takia, TAQI, Takia.
Oh, takia.
Yeah.
Which is dissimulation, deceit, not straight up lying necessarily, but misleading the person you're talking to. But there again, our consular officers and our CBP officers, ICE officers, all of them, should have training in these sorts of things. Yeah. Body language, how to, get at the actual truth when somebody is trying to mislead you, how to recognize that they're trying to mislead you. They need that training, but of course they're not getting it.
Yeah. With the attack, I mean, I always say it's kind of a fun fact. In terms of like Secret Service, I think it was up till 1919, you could go into the Oval Office as a tourist. You could just head on in. And it wasn't until Pearl Harbor, the day of, that the head of the Secret Service went and got Al Capone's impounded armored car and brought it out, and they put some flags on it, and FDR started riding it on that day. And then when I think it was two Puerto Rican nationalists tried to assassinate Truman, that's when they stopped allowing him to walk to work. And they said, we're on a military footing, or we're on a war footing, because it was right after World War II. And that it's just been that way for 80 years since. Sometimes this is the stuff that unfortunately leads to it. But as an aside, back to what you're saying about diluting the population, they're Anglo-Saxon, which there's nothing. Just as a side note, there's nothing wrong with nations just being who they are. Japan, China, Russia, Congo, Mexico. What's wrong with they're just being but that's a side rant for another time. Is it the Kalergi plan? Is that what it is?
Is it what kind of a plan?
No, wasn't there a plan about diluting the West with migrants to get rid of the Anglo-Saxon culture? Wasn't Kalergi, Klergi? I think it was.
Not sure about that, but I do know about this this account, directly from someone who would know.
Yeah.
About Britain, and of course that brings to mind what's going on right now. The flood of migrants. I've heard they're coming from over 150 countries. Now, there are only about 194 countries in the entire world, including the United States, but they're coming to us from over 150 is the latest number I've heard. I think from DHS maybe, or CBP. But it's deliberate. It's a deliberate self-hatred of one's own history, traditions, principles, customs, values, a loathing, a distaste for one's own cultural heritage.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, suicidal.
I think it was you and me who touched off on it last week about Marxism. Like the whole thing is, it's based on self-hatred. It's based on there's no plan to build, if I may, to build it back better. Build it back better, if I may. But that's simply
what destroy.
The Kalergi plan, of course, Wikipedia labels it as a far-right conspiracy theorist. The Kalergi plan, from a guy born in 1930, Richard von Coudenhove Kalergi, but it was put forward, I think, in the 60s or 70s, and it was about diluting the West with refugees to sort of divide and conquer, get rid of these large cohesive cultures, be it South American, or be it Canadian, or be it American or English or French. The idea was to topple this. I mean, I think it was the 60s or 70s. That's when it was created, that were put together. I'm not sure when we could look back at recent events. I'd say it's probably the Arab Spring is when it was manifested, but to cause chaos and topple stable governments or dictators in the Middle East and in the Third World and in Africa, and cause a flood into Britain, France, Germany, and North America. And then by doing that, you dilute any sort of mass cohesion. And then, which we haven't reached yet, but we probably will, is then the people are willing, or at least susceptible to, the strong arm of government coming in to fix the problem that they, of course, created. But it's self-hatred and divide and conquer. And Kalergi plan, Kalergi. But I mean, if you start a forest fire, you can't be too surprised if you get trapped in it. I mean, you sign off on all these things, and hey, man, in a respectable society, you can say where you're going to be, and hey, we're going to have a meeting at this time at this church. Let's all come and talk. You can't do that when you are dissolving your society at the foundational level. I hate to say I told you so, but that's what happens. You
Well,
get
they
down to
are
church.
apparently, I mean, reportedly Britain is reassessing how much protection their members of parliament, I guess cabinet members too, you would say, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe they already have more protection, but members of parliament, which would be analogous to our own congressional members, right?
Yeah.
And you know, individual ones of them might have private personal security already, but there's no government funded program in Britain for the protection of individual members of parliament. But now they're looking at that. Now they're thinking about it. I mean, they realize, but you know, even still, to read the news accounts of the assassination, which took place something like, I think it's almost 2 weeks ago now. You still get statements coming out of you know, either Scotland Yard or the police or the government. Well, we're not quite sure what his motive was, but we're going to call it terrorism.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not terrorism, it's jihad.
Yeah.
And within jihad, the doctrine of jihad, which according to Islamic law is warfare against non-Muslims, there are two kinds of jihad. One is fard kifaya, and that just means jihad that is called by a caliph who organizes the jihad or the raids or whatever, but there is no acknowledged caliph right now. So the other kind of jihad is called fard ghain. Fard ghain is individual jihad, which places an obligation on every Muslim on the face of the earth to wage jihad individually in whatever way possible if there are infidel forces present in Islamic lands. And of course, they think the whole world is Islamic land. So fard ghain, the individual responsibility to jihad.
We kind of see that, you know, we see that. So we're looking at it right now, right? Maybe they're going to start looking back at or start reconsidering how to go about, you know, best case scenario, which you'd think would happen is they're going to start looking at their border policies. But I think we all know what's going to happen is they're just going to beef up security for the very people who are dissolving the borders. Kind of like the irony of the nuclear bunker system. The nuclear bunker system will protect the only people it will protect are also the only people responsible for the nuclear war. I think that's what we'll see in Britain. You can see in the United States, well, who are the people that make these laws? Well, they're surrounded by the Secret Service. They're surrounded by ex-Delta Force and Navy SEALs. And we even see the fund the police people. Those are either rich people in gated communities with private security services, or those are political officials who have, I guess, state-funded security services. But it doesn't really matter for you and I, the people who don't have a say in whether the borders are dissolved or not. And we also, at least here, we have Second Amendment. In Britain, I mean, you can't have a spoon, right, or a knife or whatever it is. Yeah, it seems to go according to plan. They're doing what they want.
Well, what's interesting, of course, is that what we have today as the modern day nation state system was formulated in the wake of the horrific wars that tore Europe apart in you know, 15th, 16th century. And at the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648, that is when the leadership of Europe, Western Europe, I think we're talking about here mostly, you know, they come together and they said, nations are sovereign. They are in charge of their own borders and their own interior matters, unless or until such things spill over their borders and threaten neighbors. But otherwise, a nation is sovereign, and it has the right and even the duty and the obligation to keep and protect its own borders. That was a Western European thing. And they're taking it now with both hands and kind of throwing it away.
Yeah, I mean, but it does. So I kind of want to go back to this is I just had a complete brain fart. My mind was just cleared.
Southern border?
Havana syndrome. My brain. No, not that. I'm saying I think I just suffered from Havana syndrome. I think I just got a ringing in my ear and I completely lost my train of thought. Shit, Claire, help me out.
I don't know, diluting the population.
I'm not sure. Diluting
in,
yeah. So, kind of the whole rules for thee, not for me. The borders, the police, the security.
Okay.
I mean,
Oh,
we're
right.
seeing,
But around my own home or compound or, villa, going to have the best and the most technologically advanced fence that money can possibly buy. Example, of course, the current occupant of the White House and his vacation home in, where is it, in Delaware, right on the beach.
Oh, is that?
It was almost $500,000 for the new fence that went up around that place.
Hey, fences work, baby. Fences work. Walls work, right? But look at it.
Yeah, but for thee, but not for me.
Right.
Or
I mean,
for me, but not for thee offense. Yeah.
Right. The Zuckerberg wall around his island in Hawaii. I mean, what do you do after January 6th? You put up a big wall, which, hey, they work, right? But I mean, hey, that's what you're using. If you're using that to keep all the white supremacists out of the Capitol, you can't use it at the southern border, just like vaccine mandates for everyone else except at the southern border. And those kind of both tie into also the jihadi assassination of Ahmed is Chicago right now, right? Lori Lightfoot threatening the entire police department, saying, "We will fire you if you do not go in and type in your vaccination status." And then you have the police chief saying, "This has nothing to do with health. This is all about control. Miss Lightfoot is a miserable woman." I think those were his exact words. But even then,
as if Chicago is not in bad enough shape already,
yes,
with the explosion of criminal activity under this particular mayor.
Yeah, but even then, none of that matters when you're insulated from it. No one's going to be able to touch the mayor, and this isn't some call to violence. What I'm saying is these people that enact these laws,
they have their protection, but nobody else gets any.
They're fine. Yeah. They're fine. They can do whatever they want. And we're seeing that more and more. I can't help but feel like, on face value, I look at it like these people are so stupid. What are they doing? But when you change the lens you look at it through and go, through the eyes of a rainy day for a July 4th barbecue, a rainy day receives an F. A rainy day during a California wildfire receives an A. It's all about how you look at it. They receive an F for leadership. You receive an A if, as you said, these people view America as the single worst thing in the world, nothing but genocide and white privilege. They're receiving an A for supply. And I know there's a whole pandemic, so I won't entirely throw that on their back. Supply chain crisis, inflation, defunding the police, vaccine mandates, right? The great resignation is in August. There was 4 million resignations from jobs. They receive an A in terms of individuals who would take over the country and do a controlled demolition. They receive an F for leadership. And as I look at it more and more, I'm like, face value, I'm like, they're so stupid. Why would they do this? And then as I sit back, I'm like, well, as leaders, they're stupid. But if you look at it from the mindset of a Marxist takeover and controlled demolition of the United States and our republic, they're doing a fantastic job. Am I looking too into it, or does that seem
No, this is exactly right. We talked about, as you said, Marxism last program. And we're looking at Democrat, otherwise known, AKA as Marxist leadership of various cities in America. And, these are the places: Milwaukee, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Seattle, Portland, led by Democrat Party leadership. And you can't help but think, if they actually really meant to destroy the city they have been elected to lead, what would they be doing differently?
Yeah.
I don't know how else to think of it except deliberate destruction of their own cities.
I'm listening to, and I can't get a response from him. I want to get him on the podcast. Nick Bryant, who I think he just left the BBC, but he was there for like 20 years, who wrote the Franklin Scandal, all about Omaha, Nebraska, the interstate pedophile rings, really dark, horrific. Everyone around that investigation mysteriously died. Nick Bryant, God bless, is still alive. The Franklin Scandal, it's on Audible. He reads it himself, but it's all about, they kind of dive into the foster homes of these people that beat the shit out of the kids with rubber hoses. They rape them. You wear long clothes to school so no one sees the bruises. And they would farm these kids out to higher ups at the school system and including the police chief. So when the kids go to the police station or they go to school, it comes right back to the parents and they find out they had people inside the child protective services. And if you just looked at it from the uninitiated and you go, man, these foster parents are terrible. Every time they get kids, the kids end up running away or they end up on drugs. Versus if you switch the lens that you're looking at it through and go, what if these people are grooming children for, to quote the book, sadistic pedophiles? Oh, it makes a lot of sense, right? It makes a lot of, when you look at just dissolving the southern border, no vaccine mandates, everyone with a job. I'm having on a surgeon next Thursday, a military surgeon, son of a farmer, the American dream, who was let go because he wouldn't get the vaccine. This guy is like a 20-year veteran of the U.S. military and is a combat surgeon and now works stateside, I think at Walter Reed. I'm not sure. Let go because he wouldn't get the vaccine. Yet we can bring in everyone from the South without vaccines and without legal immigration. At face value, you go, how stupid can you be? If you change your perspective and go, all right, now as a leader, now imagine that there was some sort of 100-year-old Marxist takeover plan. What would you do? Oh, well, that's exactly what I'd do, is you'd collapse it from the inside. And I mean, I know I threw this at you last week and today, and that's why I want you to run for office. And I know you won't. And I've accepted that. I understand that. No means no. You want not going to run for office. I get it.
No.
But it does seem, I will say the one upside of this, I know I got to let you go in like 5 minutes. I will say the one upside of this is people who never cared about politics, even remotely, or it was just some distant, I always thought I was somewhat well read on it, but even then it was, the elections every 4 years, rah, rah, vote for your guy. People like myself and people who are creating networks of like-minded individuals to go, what can we do? How do we get onto the school board? How do we do this? How do we get involved? This would have, much like the vaccines during a pandemic, drive variants. This tyranny is sort of driving like patriotism variants. They're accelerating the evolution and the natural selection for it. Things that I never would have gotten involved in, I am now involved in. Like, hey, sure, let's go try to. When would I care? Me, who's not married, has no girlfriend, has no kids. When would I ever
you gotta
care?
Get cracking, boy.
I know, right? It's time's ticking. And my grandparents would be furious with me, right? They had 6 kids by my age. But when would someone like myself ever be concerned about the local school board in this tiny town in Maryland? Yet now I am. So I will say that is the one upside of all of this is you push so far, eventually you have to care, right? Never care about vacuuming every day until one day you're like, there's a lot of cobwebs and I woke up with a spider on me. You're like, I'm not a cleaning guy, but today I'm cleaning. Does that make sense? Would you agree with that?
You're looking at my house, aren't you?
No, your house is beautiful. I love it. No. I'm talking about my disgusting
No, but you're
stuff.
right about arousing the people. And I think a lot of it really began with the lockdowns of last year. And we've talked about this before, parents seeing finally what their children were learning because they were stuck at home doing distance learning, on a computer on the kitchen table. And I think that began it. They were horrified, the parents horrified, appalled, and then angry. And that's when they began to push back, to go to the school boards. And at the same time, a lot of the school board meetings were also being held online, which made it more convenient for the parents to attend those virtually, and so that confluence of events, as you say, tiny silver lining maybe to what went on. But I think that was the beginning of arousing the awareness of American people. And then the other thing is the parents, mothers and fathers, realizing they're coming for our kids. They're coming for our children. That's the final red line. They didn't realize it before. They didn't know that before. Now they do. Now they saw it. And then as we went on through the year and into this year, 2021, More and more Americans, as you just say, are becoming aware. They are signing up for things like, poll workers and election officials, and even running for office themselves, or at the very least getting behind, candidates who support their values, their principles. There is a great awakening going on, and if that's what we had to go through to get to it, well, I wish we didn't have to, but we are at a place where the American people are waking up.
I would say that there is a value to that. I mean, I could look at my own life, just humility, right? College, I was great. I mean, people legitimately thought I played for the football team. I was in such good shape, straight A's, smoking hot girlfriend, getting ready to go to medical school. I also thought I was all that in a bag of chips, and I had no sympathy for anyone that couldn't do it. I would say, you're not trying hard enough, work harder. And, then losing.
Well, that's true in a lot of cases, by the way.
It was, but then I would look at things like my older brother who committed suicide, and I was always like, okay, well, there's a guy who was, getting his advanced program from GTRI, Georgia Tech Research Institute, doing classified work with the Air Force. His girlfriend, absolutely beautiful lawyer. There's a guy that I'm like, okay, maybe there's more to it than just you're not brilliant guy. And then I look at my own sort of self-demolition. I gained a ton of weight. It was just, addicted to all sorts of drugs, drinking, smoking. I really just hated myself, a real piece of shit. Climbing out of all of that, just simple things like learning to stop eating, and, not blaming others for my problems, and for just realizing like, hey, everyone's facing an uphill battle. That took me like 7 years of baptism by fire. But now, as I'm slowly coming out of that, yeah, that was my great awakening. I was like, oh, everyone's fighting. Sure, there are lazy people, but I also have a heart that is now, I'm like, what's that guy fighting at home? What just happened in his family? Did he just find out he lost a sibling? What's going on? And that's just kind of an analogy to maybe this is the only way it was going to happen. Maybe this is the only way we're going to get involved, when the parents realize that there is no such thing as no man's land. You are either on this trench or that trench, but they are no man's land. Your children is going to be shelled by artillery. That's what's coming. And we can say, as of yesterday, today's Thursday, October 28th, 2021. Yesterday, the FDA voted, or 2 days ago, 17 out of 17 voters voted for required vaccines for children ages 5 to 11.
Incredible. Just incredible.
Coming for your kids, but maybe that's the only thing that was gonna wake us from the slumber. And with that, I know you gotta go. I will let you go. Miss Clare Lopez. All the links in the description. As always, follow Clare on Twitter, Lopez LLC, and all your other videos, which we just did or talked about. The Amez, what's it called? Assassination. You're on more podcasts than just mine. I thought I had a monopoly, and then I see you on other videos, and
it's helpful to be in different multiple places.
I know. Miss Clare Lopez, thank you so much. We'll resume next week. As always, just thank you so much for coming on here. I love when you talk. I love, my mom is such a huge fan of you. Yeah, seriously.
My best to her.
Yeah, seriously. And yeah, thank you so much for everything you do.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Catch you next week.
Yep. God bless America. Stay safe, everybody.